Hey everybody, Jane here, and today I am reviewing Scary Stories, the story of the books that frightened a generation. Don't be confused with this being the Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark fictional book or fictional movie. It is not. This is a documentary about the books. I will say it is not quite what I was expecting. I was expecting from the information I was given on the back for it to be more about the origins of the scary stories within the Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark books. While it does briefly touch on those things, the main focus of the Scary Stories documentary is on the impact that these books have had for my generation. We see a group of artists who is making art inspired by these stories. We see controversy and talk of censorship. There is one lady who argues and had argued in her school that they shouldn't be in an elementary library. There's a lot of discussion about that. We meet the author's son and grandson and hear a little bit about their thoughts on the book and how it has impacted them. Particularly the grandson really was appreciative of his grandpa's work. The son was kind of, to me, surprisingly indifferent about it. Maybe that wasn't the way it was meant to be interpreted, but he hadn't really read the books growing up. They weren't something that he cared about particularly. He didn't see them, especially in his early 20s, as something of value, and he felt like his dad had kind of wasted his life. As a writer, one of the things I really took away from this was that the author of the Scary Stories books had written a ton of books, over 50 in his lifetime. And, you never really know what's going to take off and what's not. It seems like he couldn't have had any idea that these books were going to be the cultural phenomenon they are, and my understanding from this documentary is that it didn't actually happen during his life. So he never really got to enjoy the fruits of his labor, which is a shame because these books are so popular and they're so interesting. We also got to learn a little bit about the pictures within them and the artists that did the work for the Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark books. I'm currently reading these books with my children and really enjoying them, so that is what sparked me to pick this up. We will probably at some point be watching the fictionalized new movie about the Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, but at this point I just was interested in the documentary that I found on the books. I will tell you, this is, I would say, for adults and or maybe older readers or viewers. It was a little bit creepy the way it was done, and some of the content is not something that I wanted necessarily, that I thought my kids would be super engaged in. This is, it wasn't something I thought had necessarily, it was too cool and creepy and spooky for most adult viewers who aren't fans of the Scary Stories. Like, I think if you're an older fan of the Scary Stories Tell in the Dark, you'll probably appreciate this. But I thought it was a little bit too much and too dry for my kids, and some of the talk of censorship got into places that I didn't necessarily want to go with my kids who are 8 at this point. On the other hand, I did think that the setup was more of a juvenile one. So there are places we get kind of cartoon stuff going on. We have a lot of creepy and cool stuff. I wasn't really sure what they were going for, or who this video is for. The content seemed to be more for adults who enjoyed the book as children, but the setup was more childish. So yeah, I had kind of mixed feelings about that, but otherwise this was a really cool video. I'm glad I watched it. It was a neat documentary, and if your library carries it, I highly recommend checking it out. Whether or not you read the Scary Stories Tell in the Dark books as a child, this can give you some insight into the scary story genre, what children love about it, why children love them, and some of the concerns that can happen in the public about whether these books should be in our school, and arguments for and against them. I will tell you, if you want my opinion, that anything age appropriate, and by age appropriate I mean written for children, should be in school libraries, even if it's something I wouldn't personally want my child to read. I'm pretty open, and I don't mind that my children read scary stories to tell in the dark, Goosebumps, etc. We do have R.L. Stine have a couple of bits in this documentary and commentary about things, so that was cool. He is the writer of the Goosebumps. He is the writer of the Goosebumps books, which my children are currently very into. So this video has a lot of discussion. It is worth watching, but maybe not very interesting, and maybe a little above the head of a young child who is just starting to read these books. All right, guys, this is Jane. My social media is below if you'd like to connect with me. I wanted to mention that I am a writer. I write mostly romance novels, so if you are interested in those, some of them are on Kindle Unlimited, and that is below as well. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you next time. Bye.